What's up, and welcome to a very special episode of First Geek 411. I'm your host, Cameron Franklin, and joining me from West Coast, Best Coast is Emma. How you doing?
Doing good this week. Can't complain.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
This week, we're, as you can tell from the title, going to be doing our spoiler cast for James Gunn's Superman 2025. Very excited for this conversation. We had a great talk last week in that episode about summer box office stuff and blockbusters and all of that. And so I am very excited for us to return to chatting about that and get in a spoiler cast. We will have Fantastic Four coming out soon as well, so I assume we'll have another spoiler cast for that. And so I'm very hyped. And so before we get into that, to give people some time as we hang out, get caught up, we are going to be doing our what we have been up to, and then we'll have a very brief spoiler-free segment before we get into the spoiler cast as a whole. And so just keep an eye out for that. We'll transition the picture when we get to Superman as a whole, and then pretty much if that's up, we're going to be having spoilers, because like I said, I anticipate our spoiler-free section being very brief. But
yeah,
before we get into what we have been up to, you can find us around the internet as OneGeek411. Join that Discord server. Shoot us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. You can also find some merch over on the Redbubble store. And then you can watch live Monday nights around 6:30 Mountain Time on YouTube and Twitch. And then over on YouTube, you can find all of the VODs. But, Emma, what have you been up to this past week other than the Superman in the room?
Not a lot. Nothing super exciting. I'm going to a wedding this week, so last week was spent making sure I had all my ducks in a row, work-wise and everything. So it was a pretty boring week, but I had a 2-movie theater movie weekend. I went and saw both Jurassic World and Superman. I was initially only planning to see Jurassic World with my friends, and then one of them was like, "Hey, we're also going to go see Superman tomorrow. Do you want to come?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?" So it was a 2-movie weekend. It was a lot of fun. I have started rewatching Stargate SG-1
Nice.
because I loved it in middle and high school, and then just haven't opened it for a while or touched it for a while. And then it was like TikTok or Tumblr or something reminded me that it existed. And I was like, oh, I'll just start watching that again. And I'm already halfway through season 1. So that's been my free time thing, is watching that. And crocheting, because it's been a busy week and I'm tired. And I just want to sit at home and watch TV and do arts and crafts.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I've been doing.
Completely understandable. For me, big news, I posted this over in the Discord, but I won my first Lorcana pin this past week.
Yeah.
Which I am super excited about. It's also the Blurple, which is blue-purple, Elsa pin for Into the Unknown. And so It felt great because I am playing that deck and that card. And so having that be my first pin was very cool. For people that don't know, the way that getting pins works is every week at League, whoever gets first place gets a pin. Now, the asterisk on that is the way that my shop does it is the first person to go undefeated after the 3 rounds gets the pin. So I've gone undefeated several times before, but they've always been long drawn out games. And this is the first time that I actually was the first one to go undefeated. And then because of actually how things shook out, I was actually the only one to go undefeated for the night. And so that was really cool. Very exciting. And so I have that up on my pin board now, and it is living its best life. And yeah, that's very cool. There's also some promos and stuff if you're not in first place, but the pin is what you're there for. And so I was very excited to have finally gotten my first one. And then what else have I been up to? this past Saturday, I played Marvel Multiverse, had some friends over. We continued our Cataclysm of Kang campaign. I got to introduce them to Tess from the Fragile Strings of Power, who, as a reminder, exists in all of my TTRPGs and is just up to the players to find her. Because she is the best character ever. And Tess is fantastic. And then a book that I think you might be very interested in is I finished Ministry of Time this past week, which is...
Tell me more.
The basic premise is that the British government has discovered a time machine. And
you got me at British and time travel.
Yeah. And they have used this time machine to pull, I believe it's 5 people, like, out of their time and into the present. And then it's about, like, those people have, like, a handler that they call a bridge. And it's basically the bridge's job to help them, like, adjust to the modern era. And Emma, you already put 2 and 2 together. This is the most, like, Doctor Who coded book. And I really think you would like it.
It sounds super Doctor Who coded, and I'm so into it.
It's very cool, very fun. I thought of you a lot as I was going through it, just because of the premise. And so I think my review on Storycraft is it's Doctor Who in the best ways. Like, it's like an episode of Doctor Who. And so I definitely think you would like it. And so I definitely recommend that you check that out at some point. And then the last thing that I did is some new levels for Astrobot came out this past week, because for some reason they are still updating that game. Let's go. And so I have not finished the levels. I got to the last one and just haven't cleared it yet. I had a handful of deaths and I was just, like, not in the mood. And so I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
We're going to just come back later. And so I kind of what you were saying with crocheting. That's kind of how I felt this past week, of it's just like I was reading the Dagger Heartcore rulebook and like watching YouTube and stuff like that and doing like Lorcana stuff. And I didn't really feel like doing much else. And so
Yep. It's a low key week.
Yeah. And then of course I went and saw Superman. And so but yeah, overall it was a good week. And then, I also had dinner with my mom. That was very fun. We went out, had crab at Red Lobster because it's Crab Fest. And so
nice.
That was very fun. And so it was great catching up. We had like a 3-hour chat. And so that was awesome. And then, always excited to get some snow crab. And so, because that's one of my favorites. With that, let's go ahead and jump into our topic of the show for this week. As a reminder, hit us up with what you've been up to over in the comment section or in the live chats. And we'll talk about those over in the post show if we have time, or we'll get to them in the comments. Let's get into our topic. So we had the release of Superman. This film made $125 million opening weekend in the North America, then an additional $95 million internationally, landing it at, what is that, 220? Yeah, 220 million for opening weekend, and doing
I would like
pretty
to
good.
Report that is $5 million under its budget. Its reported budget. Its reported budget was $225 million. So that is really good that they're hitting that on their first weekend. That's a good sign.
Yeah. And as we get into specific thoughts later on, I think the word of mouth is going to be strong with this one.
I told my mom.
I'm excited to hear because you and I have not talked about this. Like, this is probably a lot of times when we do spoiler casts, like especially lately when our spoiler casts have been TV shows, we've like talked about them week over week. And so like we have like a vibe of how we're feeling going into the spoiler cast, but we have had literally no conversations about this.
None.
And so I'm very excited to kind of get all of the vibes from you as we chat through this. And then, as I said at the top, this film is directed by James Gunn, and then it stars David Cornsweet as Clark Kent, Rachel Brosnahan. I don't know. I never know how to say her last name. As Lois Lane, and then Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. There's a handful of awesome other characters that we'll chat about as well. And then this is the first film of the DCU, kicking off the big screen for this new DC universe helmed by Gunn and Safran. So very excited for those conversations as well. But high level, spoiler free, what do you think of this? What are your thoughts? And then kind of with that, what's your overall familiarity? There we go. With DC/Superman.
I will start with that first. Overall familiarity. I saw most and or all of the major Batman movies. All of the Superman with what's his name? The Witcher.
Henry Cavill.
Man of Steel. Yeah. Saw those. That's about the extent, and a couple of the random TV shows. I watched a good chunk of Green Arrow.
Mm-hmm.
Little bit of The Flash. I dabbled a bit in the TV shows, basically. So I have a good overview of the universe and how things interact with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to rival my knowledge of Marvel, but good enough to have a sense of the vibes. That being said, I went into this movie very neutral, with no opinions one way or the other. Again, I wasn't planning on going to see this, but my friends were going and invited me, and I was like, it'll be fun. I'm gonna hang out with friends. That's what I'm looking for. I just want to hang out with my friends right now. So we went, and I came out pleasantly surprised at how fun it was and delightful.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like a true comic book movie. It definitely gave the good energy that you get from reading a comic book. But as a superhero movie. So it was fun, and I really enjoyed it. And I recommended it to my mom because she loves Ant-Man. And that was the specific reason. And I was like, my mom loves Ant-Man, which means this movie is right up her alley. So, because it's the same humor, same vibe, just Superman instead of Ant-Man. So it was very good, and I was surprised at how much fun I had with it. So that's an overview.
Yeah, for me, I don't have a ton of familiarity with DC, at least not to the extent that I do with Marvel. I have always liked Batman as, the most mid take of hey,
Yep.
Batman's a cool character. And so, so really enjoyed those films, and have overall really liked the quality of those, especially compared to so many of the other things that we have had. And for DC EU, I saw a handful of the movies, but not really a lot. I never actually saw Justice League, or I never actually saw Man of Steel, and I never saw Batman versus Superman. And
I never saw that.
Yeah, I've seen a handful. I've seen Justice League, I've seen Aquaman, I've seen Wonder Woman. There's probably one or two other ones in there that I've seen Shazam. But overall, I have not seen a lot of the DCEU films, and that kind of summarizes my vibe with DC of it's hey, if the DC people tell me I need to go see it, I will. But it's not something I was going out and keeping up with to the same extent that I do with Marvel.
Yeah.
Where most Marvel things I'm there, even if it's a character that I'm not super interested in, I'll at least give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
but DC is definitely different. Now, with that being said, I definitely grew up watching like Batman the Animated Series and the animated Justice League cartoon. And so like that is definitely like a core part of my like take on DC is from those shows growing up. And then I've read a handful of DC comics. Again, a lot of Batman. I say a lot. Probably I say more Batman than other things. Not a lot of Batman.
Yeah.
But haven't really read a ton other than that. And so I will definitely be adding some stuff. I've talked for a while. I have All-Star Superman, which is one of the comic books that inspired this movie. And I've been holding off. I had intended to read it like 8 months ago when I got it. Never got there. And then it was too close to the movie. So now that I've seen the movie, I'll go read All-Star Superman. And then we'll get into spoilers and talk about some other stuff I might be reading soon once we get into that.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, so that's my take on DC. And then overall, similar to you, like I went in with pretty low expectations, not in the sense that like I expected it to be bad by any means. I had very high hopes for James Gunn. And I really, and I said on the show, like last week and prior, like I really wanted James Gunn to nail this because things were pointing to that he would. And especially like given his pedigree with Guardians and stuff like that. And so, but like when it came to the actual like character and stuff like that, I didn't necessarily have a ton of expectations other than like the hope that this would make me actually care about Superman as someone who like has never like overly liked that character. And so, and then, kind of to what you were saying, like this movie is very fun. Like it does a lot of, I equated this the content is very different, but I equated this very similarly to Deadpool and Wolverine, where like that movie is just fun and like it's silly and enjoying itself. It's happy to be a comic book movie, and this felt very similar, although of course in a much less rated R way. And so,
it's a more family friendly version of Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah. And so it was just like the characters, like everyone seemed like they were excited to be there. It seemed like people understood the assignment. And overall, I think people like that translated to how people are receiving the movie. And they're just very excited. And I'm definitely one of those people. Like, again, I can't necessarily say that this made me like, I love Superman, but this definitely was a film that I really enjoyed. And so I am now very excited to go and see what is next, especially for this version of Superman. And so, which I think is was one of the major jobs of this film. And so, with all of that, let's go ahead and jump into spoilers. And so we're going to be chatting characters, plot, all of that stuff. If you have not seen the film and you care about spoilers, this is your opportunity to mute the tab and come back later once you have seen it. And then also remember that you can always come and chat stuff with us over in that Discord channel. We have where you can use spoiler tags and do all of that kind of stuff, and we can chat and kind of catch on what all is going on. And so, now all of that out of the way, very high level plot here. This movie begins with a bit of a text crawl, which from what I've heard, people are saying might have been inspired by like the Star Wars crawl. Like that might have been something that I heard specifically David wanted them to do. I don't know if that's true or if that's accurate, but like apparently that was like some of the inspiration was a like Star Wars-esque crawl.
I feel like most text crawls these days are inspired by Star Wars.
You're not wrong.
Like that's just my general like. I feel like they're all inspired by Star Wars at this point.
So, but through that we find out that that metahumans have existed on Earth for around 300 years, and then we find out that about 30 years Jor-El and Laura Vaughn sent their infant son Kal-El to Earth. This is quoting from the Wikipedia, to escape the destruction of their home planet Krypton. He's raised as Clark Kent by the adopted parents Jonathan and Martha Kent in Smallville, Kansas. He gains incredible powers from the sun. Inspired to heroism by Jor-El and Laura's farewell message, Clark introduces himself as Superman 3 years ago, and he became the most powerful metahuman on Earth. Clark maintains his secret identity and a job as a reporter at the Daily Planet in Metropolis, where he works alongside Jimmy and Lois, the latter of whom he is in a relationship with for the past 3 months. And so there's a lot of this like 3 theme, and then the movie kicks off with 3 hours ago, Superman gets his first defeat. And that's really where we jump in. And so, high level, let's chat our main trio of characters here, where we have David Cornsweet as Superman, Rachel as Lois Lane, and then Nicholas as Lex. What did you think of this trio? You can go individually, you can talk about them as a group, but what did you think of our 3 leads for this film?
I thought they were solid. I mean, this will be the maintaining thing throughout this entire episode, but I have, again, went in with no expectations. So I also don't have any attachments to certain actors playing any specific character. Because Superman as a character has been on the big screen for years, generations, basically. But I thought David Cornsweet did fabulous with the character, especially with this take of Superman, of just being more like goofy and lighthearted, and like the actual character you see in the comics, of like really caring about the people he's saving, and like saving squirrels in the midst of battle, and things. And Rachel as Lois Lane, solid. Definitely felt like a modern, Lois reporter, using all of her resources to the best of her ability. Nicholas Hoult as Lex, the sub tab you have for that, I definitely agree with, which I'm not gonna talk about too much yet, just so that you can lead into it. But definitely he felt like the right actor for the position of Lex Luthor. Like, he definitely fit that role just in general, of like looks and vibe and things. Who was he in X-Men? He was an X-Men character, right? Or am I going crazy?
One of Mr. Terrific is an X-Men character. He's from X-Men First Class. I don't know if Nathaniel or if Nicholas was.
I feel like he was.
Let me check. I'm on Wikipedia. He's Beast. He's Hank McCoy / Beast. Yeah, and
That's
Nate
it.
got us there in chat as well. And so
yeah. So I was definitely getting X-Men the entire time, still just like a different version of the I'm blanking on all of my X-Men lore. The bald guy in the wheelchair.
Professor X.
Professor X, thank you. Just all of these different characters. But I mean, we've seen him clearly in comic movies before, and it definitely seems like something that he does, and does well. So that was fun. I also just didn't know anything about the character of Lex Luthor in general, and it was fun to be like, big bad evil guy is a rich weapons dealer.
Yeah.
And he's just his entire driving motivation for all of the bad things he does is that he's jealous of Superman, who's just a good guy. And I think Nicholas Hoult did that well. So,
for me, and then we'll get to that other comment that you referenced. I overall really liked this cast. Like, I'll shout out Rachel first as Lois Lane. I feel like she did an amazing job. Lois is, I mean, probably the most important character in any Superman story, because she is like the grounding force. And so I think that Rachel did an amazing job of like being that character and then also still being a character with drive and motivation. And they do the thing that I like here, which is like Lois actually good at her job. Like, she's not just like some schlump that like is here because she's in love with Superman. Like, she does meaningful things and contributes and like saves the world by the end of the story in like a different way than Superman, but still in an equally important way. And that's something that I really like about, like, at least what we're getting so far about Rachel's portrayal of this character. And so I hope that that's something that we continue to see. Kind of that idea of like the multi-plane story, where like one of those stories is like, you can't just punch all problems away.
Nope.
Like, you need someone to actually go and figure out what's going on and be extremely smart. And that's like one of the cool things about this version of Lois.
Connect all the dots, all of the paper trails.
Yeah. And I said this about Robert Pattinson's Batman, but one of the things that I like about that take as well is like that version of Batman is like trying to be the greatest detective, which is not something that we had seen in film. And so like here I bought that Rachel is a great like reporter and investigative journalist, and like this version of Lois actually is a huge part and an important part of this story. And I think that that is super cool. I loved this portrayal, and we'll talk more about some of the specifics later on, but I loved that. And then for David as Superman, like, this is fun. Again, I feel like he understood the assignment, and that's the most important part. Like, he knew that like Superman is at his best when he gets to be silly and have fun. And I feel like that is like the best part of like, not to like pile on the DCEU, but like that set of films was very clearly trying to emulate The Dark Knight, trying to be this darker, more brooding take, as we saw kind of propagate out through a whole bunch of media. And that like the DCEU as a whole kind of fell into that, like that style. And so, and while I think that it's very interesting to get those versions of takes on characters, like they just did not connect with me and connect with as many people. And so getting to see this version of Superman that has his underwear on the outside and like is embracing that like fun side of the character is definitely what I was here for. I also like how, to not get into the theme of the film, but like, I love how human this version of Superman is. Of like, I've said before that like one of the reasons I don't like Superman is that he's boring. Of like, he's somebody that like is always pulling his punches, is always like able to save the day. I say always, and you know, the main media portrayals. Again, this is someone that has, because of those portrayals, has never wanted to dig into comics. So I have not seen the other cool versions of this character that exist. And so, or there's even stuff of, yes, Nate in chat says the Boy Scout, of like, it's a similar reason that like on the Marvel side, I haven't really liked Captain America until we got the MCU version of him. And so, just because the limited views of that character I had were similarly the Boy Scout, or even Cyclops as another example of this, of like, and like Superman's kind of always fallen into that trap for me and just hasn't been interesting. But I like that this version gets wrecked multiple times throughout this film, including like literally his first scene. And so I like that we get this take on the hero. And like I said, I feel like David does a great job of like understanding the assignment and being able to be that version of the hero, not the like brooding alien. And so, and then finally for Nicholas, I loved this version of Lex. I've complained a lot on this show of the like when one person is portrayed as being smart and like literally everyone else is just dumb. Of like that's always my trouble with like intelligent characters or characters that are supposed to be like extremely intelligent. And I feel like this version of Lex like didn't feel that same way. Like he felt like someone that was smart while he's competing against other very smart people. Not necessarily Superman, because he's kind of dumb, but like, but
he's dumb in the good kind of way.
Yes,
of just like, yeah, you can't fault the guy.
Yeah, like Superman's not a planner. Like that's just not his vibe.
He just wants to keep people from dying. And that's a very honorable thing to want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I like this version of Lex. I liked that his whole crux is that he is upset that the world worships Superman because Superman is not human. And and that like I heard this somewhere, but the idea that like Lex Luthor's B plot is that he is just jealous and that he is doing this because he's jealous.
Yep.
And like he admits it, he understands that it comes from envy, and he's like, "Yep, I'm pretty upset about this. I know who I am. Like you're not gonna get me." Like, and I definitely loved that take on it. And so, and then the getting to this comment. This is from Sneaky over in the Discord. He says, Nicholas felt only 60% utilized in this film. He spent more time giving exposition to advance the plot, and I'm not sure how I would utilize him more. His last shot of the film blew me away. The rage on his face was so well done. Like I said, that's from Sneaky. What did you think of that quote as we kind of dig into this specific conversation around Lex?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with it, but at the same time, to me, it felt like that works within the movie just because of how the whole movie sort of flows together. Because you have all of these characters who are so, like, sort of outrageous in their own ways. You've got the Green Lantern with a terrible haircut who's just...
Guy Gardner. It's amazing.
So into like my word is law. This is how we're gonna do it. We're gonna be called the Justice League, not Justice League, Justice Gang, and like whatever. And then like all of these other characters who are so sort of silly and goofy. They all have their quirks that like the monologuing kind of fit in with Lex Luthor. If that as a character were sort of taken as is and put in a different movie, then yeah, it would bother me more. But it just kind of flows with the movie as a whole. Because like the whole movie, I said this earlier, feels like a comic book movie. It very much gives comic book energy and vibes. So you expect the bad guy to monologue. When you're getting that kind of vibe out of something, you expect the bad guy to then stand there and monologue and have whatever he says feed into the story. If they don't do that, then it's like, well, that was anticlimactic. You just captured the villain, stuck him in a cage, didn't say anything, and then left. That's boring.
Nope.
So, like, the monologuing for me was fun.
Yep. I'll say for me, I think this was the perfect amount of Lex.
Yeah.
Like, I loved, like, that he is so unapologetically the villain. And I love that he is secure in the fact that, like, hey, I know Superman could punch me and I would be dead. But I also know Superman's not going to kill me. And, like that's it's almost like Joker-esque. Where like Joker is like trying to push Batman to kill Joker. And like he knows that he won't, but that's what like the goal is. And this kind of felt the same way with Lex. Of like Lex knows that like, hey, as long as I can keep you from like not stop or from being able to stop my other plan, I know you're not going to like kill me. And like I loved that like confidence and assurance as he gets into like, actually like the scene where Superman like breaks into Lex's office and trying to like is
Where's
trying to
the
find
dog?
trying to find Crypto. And I think that's so cool because like Lex is so calm because he knows that like Superman could do it, but he won't. And
He's not going to.
And I like that take. And I like I said, I like the unapologetically villain version of Lex as he like finds someone that like that Clark or that Superman has talked to once and is like, oh, we got video of you talking to this person. Like we're gonna kill him in front of you if you don't tell us what we want to know. And like just so unapologetically awful. And I thought that was really like an interesting take on the character. Oh yeah, the guy served him falafel. Clearly crossed the line. Yeah. Wait, you can't be friendly to Superman.
That was too much. You can't give him falafel.
Yeah. Swarma, okay, but falafel straight out. And so
unacceptable.
And then earlier in chat, Nate said, I kind of like that they kept Lex cloistered away. Felt like a portrayal of his dependence on his army and technology. Yes.
Yeah.
And again, while I'm not like super versed in DC, I like this version of Lex that is not the one in the suit, like with the kryptonite, trying to be the one to literally stop Superman. I like him like trying to rely on schemes and plans. Like
he was the big brains guy who, like, the moment all of his things got destroyed, like he couldn't defend himself.
Yeah. Then, so like I said, those are our leads, our three big ones. We'll probably, of course, be chatting about them more as we talk through other scenes because it turns out they're in a lot of this movie. But let's go and chat about some of our other characters that we've had. When it comes to side characters, we have the Justice Gang with Hawk Girl, Green Lantern, and Mr. Terrific. We also have Lex's team with the Engineer and Ultraman. And then, of course, we have the other reporters and the president guy. I didn't bother looking up his name. But what did you think of our side characters? Any standouts? Any specific like parts of like what these characters got up to that you loved? Anything like that?
Best character, 10 out of 10. No notes, no complaints. Is the dog. I love the dog. Crypto is best boy. Crypto can do no wrong. Every scene that involves Crypto, the dog, is my favorite scene. Best boy can do all of the wrong and still be best boy. Absolutely takes the cake. That being said, Supergirl needs to get her act together and actually train her dog.
We'll talk more about Supergirl later on.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that later. Girl, get your act together. But the side characters in like just overall fed into the chaos of this movie in the best way possible. The Green Lantern guy, so funny in the most like, I hate you, but I want you to stick around because you're too funny. So just like him, I'm just picturing the scene where it's Superman and Lois in the apartment having a serious conversation, and there's the battle happening in the background, and you can just see a giant green like bat hitting this giant floating eyeball over and over and over again. Like, clearly that's not working. You should try something else. So he's just this random, rather incompetent superhero who still somehow manages to do his job kind of okay. And that's fun. And then there's the the one reporter who had the contact that's Lex's girlfriend.
Jimmy Olsen.
Who, yeah, who's just kind of like almost like the intern at the news place, but is very clearly a full-time employee. Um, he was great of just being like I've randomly got this information from someone. I'm clearly useful, but I'm also a goofball who's like not willing to stand up for himself.
Yeah.
So side characters I thought were solid and just really enjoyed because they boosted the goofiness of the movie. And Mr. President guy was just a lackey for Lex Luthor. You know, like he was the president of a country that had made a deal with the big bad evil guy to get what the big bad evil guy wanted. And very generic but funny. Yeah.
In chat, Nate says Jimmy Olsen is the GOAT.
Yeah.
And so for me, I loved these side characters. I like kind of going to what you were talking about with the fight between, or the conversation between Superman and Lois with the big alien thing in the back, the interdimensional imp. And one of the things that I love about Green Lantern is like it's a power that is all about creativity. And so I love when that gets to be like part of the storytelling, and the idea that like that guy is just not creative. Like you can make anything and you have a baseball bat and mittens and like all of like a little muzzle. And
generic
it's like,
household items.
Yeah. It's just like it's so basic. And I love that can just be part of the character. Or like, again, like later on in the film, kind of when we get to the climax and like he's flipping over the tanks. It's really funny that he's flipping them the bird. But like, literally it's like, I need to flip over these tanks. What am I going to do this with? My hands, but bigger, like Big B's magic hand. And like,
whoop-bam.
Like this, they could have been flipped over by anything, but they're just hands. And like, I love that can just be like how the character is portrayed.
It's funny because it's so uncreative.
Yes, like, exactly.
That's what makes him funny, is he just lacks creativity.
Yeah, I did see a funny post from someone that was the biggest travesty about Superman doing well is that people might go get Guy Gardner's haircut. It's like this could actually be a problem.
Even with the line in the movie that criticizes the haircut. Yeah. And it's great.
And then other side characters. I loved Hot Girl. I love Isabella.
Yeah.
Ardina. She's back. She's in another superhero movie.
We love her.
This one isn't awful. Looking at you, Madam Web. And
good for you, girlfriend. Yeah. Good for you. Yeah.
I'm so happy. And then I also love that as Hot Girl, she literally can screech like a hawk. Just like, it's so obnoxious in the best way. Of just like she's flying around screeching at things, and I'm like, this is great.
Taking the superpowers literally, just like the good old days.
And then she has the scene with President Guy where she like flies him out of the building, and he's like, I know you won't do anything. Superman doesn't kill. And she goes, I'm not Superman. And it just drops him. Like,
honestly, iconic.
Yeah.
It's terrible, but it's also like, you know what? You also have your things that you stand for. So,
yeah.
Can't argue
I think
with
that was great. And then, I forgot to reference him earlier. We also get Metamorpho, who has the ability to transmute his body into different elements. This is a weird looking character that I like wasn't sure how this was going to go, but I really liked what they did with Metamorpho. I think it's a very fun take.
He's around.
Yeah. He's there. He helps. He hurts. I like this idea that like as he like uses his power, he gets smaller and smaller until he can like pull himself back together, basically. And I think that's super fun.
Yeah.
And then in chat, Nate says, but Baby Joey, though, that's the worst part about Metamorpho, is that Baby Joey has to be around. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I was not a huge fan of Baby Joey. They are horrifying. And so, and then, yeah, other like the engineer seems interesting. I'm curious to what's going to happen with them next. Because I think there's a future project for the team that's the Authority that the engineer is a part of in the comics from the stuff that I've seen. And so I am very interested in like what we're going to get there, especially because like they have the line where she's like I gave up my humanity for this.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be very interesting to see like what does that look like if we get to focus on that character more. And so then yeah, I also like that this gets solved by selfies. Like again, the actual reporting of like we're sent these pictures, and it's just like
Look,
wait,
what's in
the
the
background is all the evidence that we need. And so,
wow.
A+. And then, yeah, those are our main characters and our side characters. Before we get into the plot itself, I kind of alluded to this question earlier, but I want to get your opinion. Do you feel like this movie as a whole, does it set off the DCU on the right foot? If this is supposed to be the big kickoff for James Gunn's universe.
I think so, yes. Because as a avid Marvel person who has always been an avid Marvel person, this really got me into DC stuff and like actually wanting to know more about DC stuff, which is like none of the other DC things I've seen have ever gotten me that interested in DC characters and heroes, and like has gotten me like, yeah, I want to like see more of whatever this is.
Mm-hmm.
But this like for me was like, I want more of whatever this is. There's still like for me personally, again, there's still a bit of superhero fatigue from all of the Marvel stuff that's happening and out there.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I'm like, if DC keeps doing this, this is still superhero, but a different kind of superhero. And like just enough different that I could feasibly see myself getting back into superhero stuff.
Mm-hmm.
In a good way. Because Marvel has continued a lot of the same tone since Endgame, just with new characters, and that's been very tiring because
Mm-hmm.
we just got all of that big buildup, and now you're just like going and going, and it's like flat plane. But this is like, okay, a nice start over, here's a beginning with fun, exciting,
Mm-hmm.
silly characters. There's no end of the world and giant things coming to take over the planet. Again, for the millionth time, it's just evil billionaires who want to destroy the world because they don't like Superman. But it's like at the same time they're putting green glowy oven mitts on giant space trolls and whacking interdimensional eyeballs with baseball bats. And that's like funny. It's silly. So I think it's a good right foot off as a reset for the DC movies because it's setting a good tone that is also like what a lot of people love about classic superhero comic books. So
yeah, and this will kind of tie in. Oh, Nate calls out in chat. We forgot the character. We forgot 4, also known as Gary, Alan Tudyk's robot.
Oh yeah, the robots.
Yep. And so
yeah,
we'll get more of them, I hope. And so, but for me, like this question kind of ties in with what I'm going to say for the next question as well, which is like I think that this does the best thing of making this universe already feel lived in.
Yeah.
Like we've talked about this before, like looking at Spider-Man as the big example, where like we had gotten two versions of Spider-Man that were both very focused on the origin story of the character. And then when we got Tom Holland's, we were able to just jump in with he is Spider-Man and has been Spider-Manning for some amount of time.
It was very much you guys know Spider-Man.
Yeah,
it was very much like
it.
You guys know who this guy is, okay?
Yeah.
Let's just move on.
Yeah, and I liked that about this. And I feel like that's probably one of the biggest reasons for me that I feel like this sets up the DCU well. Like, you've established that there's like 300 years of metahumans for us to take a look at. That's a lot of history. That's a lot of like, what does that actually mean for our characters? That like I'm super interested in now. Like, even if we're not going to get like a movie set 100 years in the past or whatever, but like I like this idea.
It
that
still
like,
just implies that, like,
yeah,
as you said earlier, the world is lived in.
yes.
This isn't just a single case of some human having superpowers. There's others.
Yeah. And like I know this, so I'm going to give this asterisk as well, but like I also feel like the one of the most interesting things about superhero movies is when there's not just one. Like, that's something that like I feel like the cinematic universes have done well. Now the asterisk there is like I'm super interested for Fantastic Four because in that version of, or in their universe, they are the only heroes. And so like, oh, what does that mean? But that's different than like a kicking off a new universe type thing. And so so I liked this, and I feel like it does the best job of like referencing other characters, like even like John Cena's Peacemaker gets a shout out in this ahead of Peacemaker season 2. And then obviously we get the Justice Gang name pending, and like we get that, but we also get like we just kind of jump in with like Lex has a pocket universe. Like that's already a thing. And just like we're just like embracing that this is a comic universe that is already lived in. And I like that we
have been doing their things for a while.
Yeah, and that just makes it so much more interesting to me than if this would have been Smallville. Like, who is this guy with powers as Clark reveals himself as Superman to the world. And so I like this a lot and like having this vibe. And so
also,
and like
shout out, sorry, I just thought of this because
good.
It feels important. Shout out to Superman's adopted parents for being great parents.
Yeah,
they get a gold star for not his genetic parents, his adopted parents, the cute little farmers in the countryside. Gold star.
And kind of jumping in with the next question again, I kind of always talk about this. Like, well, what did you think about this idea of us like starting with this lived-in version of the universe and not having this be like using Iron Man as the example, where like, of course, we've retconned MCU that there were other superheroes before and stuff like that. But like when that movie was presented, it was like Iron Man is the ignition that kicks off the rise of the enhanced individuals. Like, what did you think about us getting the opposite of it for this one?
I mean, I think, at least in this case, it's hard to compare apples and oranges because at the time that Iron Man came out, superhero movies as a whole weren't really a thing outside of like animated stuff for kids. They weren't a huge blockbuster, whatever. So they really had to like ease people into these bigger world of comic books. So the way they did Iron Man was very logical for the time period of 2008. It was 2008. Because Supernatural was 2005, which is why I'm thinking of the number 2005, because that's work related. But 2008, Iron Man, like what they did with Iron Man makes sense for 2008 and how that kicked off the MCU. Because they couldn't just throw even like 5 superheroes at you in one movie and expect you to like, or expect you as in the general audience to like keep up with everything. Your generic, big comic book fan could have kept up with that, but like they wouldn't have gotten the general audience they're looking for. Now, though, because the MCU has existed for a long time and DC has existed for a long time, it's been 18 years roughly, or whatever math is. I can't do math.
What is math?
Don't know. Like that's a much more familiar concept of superhero movies where even people who haven't seen or really been invested in them before, are like more expecting to walk into something and have it be kind of not even convoluted, but just like have a lot going on, even if it is like, oh yeah, it's just this group of people over here doing their own thing with this little group of people over there doing their own thing. Like, so the way that they did this Superman now, with it feeling very lived in, makes sense for the year of our Lord 2025. Because people are more like, okay, superhero movies are more of these huge series, like movie series, kind of like a TV series, but movies instead, with all these different characters going on. So even if I'm not in touch with all of those characters, I can go into a movie about one guy who I know and I'm familiar with, and it's going to be mostly about that one guy, but there is going to be like someone coming in and like doing something to help out for a scene or two. And like people expect that now, even if they're not superhero people. So if this had been much more like Iron Man, where it was very isolated, people would be more disappointed by not getting to see, a guy show up in a scene who they might not know, but it's like clearly something that someone out there is like in on the joke for. So it really fits just with what state the world is in now for superhero comic book movies. And it's also just fun, and like it really does a good job of hooking people in and curious about like, well, what are they gonna do with the terrible Green Lantern guy who's terrible at running this justice gang? So yeah.
I'm there with you. I think it's very interesting to compare just because of how far we have gone. Where like obviously like there were some great superhero films like pre Iron Man, but there was also some really bad ones. And like for every
they definitely
like
existed.
Yeah, for every like Spider-Man, there was Daredevil, and like and even like I believe Batman Begins came out before Iron Man, but then Dark Knight came out after. So like that puts you in like a weird spot there as well. But like, and I think that that's like definitely made it super interesting to look back and how far we've gone. And kind of to your point, I feel like with this film building off of that last, 20-ish years, not just of Marvel, but of DC as a whole as well with the DCEU, like I feel like fans, like general fans, have grown much more accustomed with, they will tell me what's important.
Yeah.
Who is this Green Lantern? I don't know. They'll let me know in the film.
Yeah. Like, if I need to know, they will tell me.
I feel like there's a lot more of that trust. Whereas like a couple years, like going into like Iron Man, like if they would have shown Iron Man and Captain America and Thor and all of these characters, I think the assumption would definitely have been that they would have fumbled that. And like there are of course plenty of examples of that even post Iron Man, but like I do feel like this movie kind of gets to sit on the shoulders of giants just because so many like people have already paved the way for us just being more even like generally familiar. Of like, I'll use it like the example of Mr. Terrific. No clue who he was going into this movie.
Yeah.
Or going into like his announcement for this character. But like, that's super cool. And again, I trusted that James Gunn was going to tell me what I needed to know about this character, and he did. And turns out he's like really cool. And like,
Yeah.
I love the vibe there. And so, but yeah, so I definitely feel like it's gotten to like kind of build off that in the best ways. Again, kind of going back to the Spider-Man example, but we get this with literally Superman as well, where we had like the classic Superman movies, we have the DCEU Superman movies. Like, this gets to build off of that and be like, hey, assume his like origin story is exactly what you expect, except for these key differences that we're going to tell you.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah,
I think
we're
that's
tweaking
a great
it
way.
just a little bit.
Yep.
And we're going to tell you that. So.
Yeah. But yeah, let's chat plot. What did you think of the overall plot of this film? Were there any parts that were your favorite, any least favorite parts, and like specific scenes that stuck out to you either for good or for bad? What did you think?
I mean, overall, very, like, at its core, it's a very simple plot.
Mm-hmm.
/ there's like, I don't want to say there's not much of a plot, because there's a plot there. But it's the kind of movie that works, that like floats on there not having a major plot or whatever. Like, it's
There's
a
like 3 bullet
good
points.
time movie. Yeah,
Like,
it's a 3 bullet point plot. There's a beginning, middle, and end. And as long as they hit those 3 bullet points, like, everything else in getting there is a good time. And that's it. And sometimes the simplest plots are the best ones and the most enjoyable. And because it's literally just, you know, bad guy wants to destroy Superman. So he frames him, he makes him look bad in the public eye, and starts a war to take over land in the process of trying to make Superman look bad.
Yeah.
And then Superman destroys that plan. It's literally just a classic comic book of big bad evil guy has plan, superhero destroys plan. Yep. There's a couple of little rocky spots in there in the middle, but like the Superman hero succeeds at the end of the day. Just, you know, fluffed out with some fun moments of your dog with super powers playing with a cow in Kansas, which is kind of sketchy because it's a dog with superpowers.
Yeah.
Like, that could go terribly wrong. And also, your friends over in the corner are beating up a giant floating eyeball in the background with baseball bats, which I'm going to keep referencing forever and a day. And a monkey AI hashtag farming scenario in an alternate pocket dimension. Like, there's just all these random little things happening in the process of bad guy evil plan and hero defeating bad guy evil plan that is just like, something's happening, right? It is happening. We're defeating the bad guy. Yep. But it's a silly way of defeating the bad guy. So it was good. It was like, if you ask me what the plot is, it's, you know, your generic superhero plot. Bad guy, hero defeats bad guy. It's not that complicated. That's what the plot is.
I think a great example
that's what it needed.
of that is it's like the idea of a coloring book. Of like, I feel like the plot of this is like a pretty general superhero picture, and then it gets colored in a really cool way. Of like the way that like it gets you from bullet point to bullet point, I think is really well done. Like, even stuff of like bad guy like turns the public against Superman. Superman turns himself in. oh no, Superman's actually taken to a pocket dimension. Lois has to go rescue Superman, gets help from Justice Gang. They go and rescue Superman. Like, it's just like
There you
very
go.
like to the point there, and I think that that's great.
Yeah.
Like, that's by no means a complaint. I love that this isn't some like super nuanced plot, because I don't think it needed to be, and like I hope
No.
that we do get something like that in the future. We'll talk about a future project in a little bit that I hope is much more along those lines, but I like that this isn't anything too crazy. Again, going to the Deadpool and Wolverine example, like, you can just have a good plot that's fun to watch and fun to follow along with, and like get us places in a cool way. For me, and then I want to hear from you. For my favorite part, anytime that Lois and Clark are together were some of my favorite scenes in this film. So I loved the interview scene that we had seen in trailers of where like, wait, you're gonna let me interview you? Are you sure? And this
And
idea
it just turns into an argument.
right, and like, and it's so fun too, because like they've been together again, talking about the idea that this universe is lived in. Like, they've been together for 3 months, which is a while, but also isn't that long.
Yeah.
And so like, this is also a scene of them kind of like feeling out like, what does this mean for our relationship? That like obviously she already knows he's Superman, but like have they had like back and forths like this before? Like, we know he doesn't like that one hashtag, and that like, as much as he complains about like or says that Superman doesn't look at social media, like she knows that he does and gets like feels bad about it sometimes. Like, and so I thought that was super cool. And then, I mean, you keep referencing the giant floating eyeball. I love the scene of them with the hot chocolate too. And just like the little things in that scene of like when he like takes a drink and goes, that's good. Of just like stuff like that, of like just getting to see them like side by side. And I think that that is super cool. And I loved that side of these characters and getting to see them like grow and adapt. And another example of this is when we go to the Hall of Justice and the Justice Gang is just chilling.
Yeah.
And like, I think that that's super
in the
fun.
lobby of this building.
Yeah, that we get to have these like downtime moments. I think those are super fun in these types of movies. Just like obviously not every hero is like on 24/7, and I love that we get to see that here. For least favorite part, honestly, a lot of stuff with the president guy. Like, maybe that just hits a little close to home at the moment or whatever, but like this like geopolitical conflict like being instigated through all of this stuff. And so and Nate says y'all don't sound like huge like DC mega fans. Yes, but the Hall of Justice is a big Easter egg, and I know that one from the cartoon, and so that was one that I popped off for because of that. And so but yeah, and so like I said, so like the president stuff was not my favorite. Again, I feel like it furthered the plot, but like it did not make me feel happy. And so what about you? Favorite
like,
part, least favorite parts?
The favorite part, my absolute favorite scene is when he wakes up in his childhood bedroom and Crypto is just lying on him and just like staring at him. And when he wakes up, he wags his tail and he's just lying there. Like, it's one calm moment for this dog who is actually insane. Like, and he's just like, it's just a cute little moment of like Superman, who's arguably the most famous superhero in the world next to Spider-Man and Batman, is just lying there in his bed and he's got his dog and it's clearly his childhood bedroom and he's just like has a moment with the dog and it's cute and it's sweet. And then he goes downstairs and has a talk with his dad who's concerned about him. And it's just all super sweet. Like, his parents know that he's this big, powerful alien. And they're just like, you're our son. We love you.
Sometimes you just need good vibes.
yeah, sometimes you just need the good vibes of your parents and home, and it was a good time. Um, Definitely with you on least favorite part being the president. I mean, that all makes sense. Um, 2025, we're tired. Um, but there were so many just like good little moments in
Mm-hmm.
in the movie. Um, it's hard to pick. The baby was weird, baby Jimmy, but also it's like he shows up, he's
Joey,
there for
correct.
like
Just because Jimmy is a
Joey.
different
Thank you.
character.
Great. So many J
So
names.
many J names.
Um, like he exists in the movie as a way for the element guy to like as a threat for the element guy.
Yeah.
And then Superman rescues the baby and then baby disappears, which is fine. But also like baby is weird. Baby Joey is weird. But maybe that'll turn into something in the future. Um but
In chat,
anything with
Nate
the dog.
shouts out the kid raising the flag with the insignia on it. Yeah, that was super cool.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, a very powerful moment. I also want to shout out Mr. Terrific's fight scene because if this is not the most Guardian of the Galaxy fight scene to ever not be in a Guardians of the Galaxy movie,
Yeah.
like,
What you mean to say is it's the most James Gunn fight
yeah,
scene you've ever seen.
yeah. I love this. Like that Lois is just like in the portal safe or in like the force field safe, as like Mr. Terrific is out here like taking out all of these guards. Some creative uses of the T-spheres, both as like bludgeoning weapons, but also like he grabs them and like uses it to pick himself up, to move himself to other locations. Like super fun, super
Yep.
fun action scene with like a creative power set that is it.
Yep.
That again isn't just punch, and so, um, I thought that was really interesting. And then yeah, there are what I would consider two twists in this film. One of them is not really a twist, the other one is. And so we'll start with the one that is. And that is when we get the reveal that this message from Clark's parents that has kind of been his motivating drive for like why he feels like he needs to go out and help people is actually a negative thing. This is from my very little understanding of Superman lore, is a pretty big like change to the overall plot of this character. Of my understanding is that he's typically is sent on this very positive mission to Earth, and that's his parents' goals by sending him here. But what did you think of this twist of having it be like, hey, go and like subjugate this planet, like make a new Krypton? So,
I mean, ultimately, the sort of big picture, I think it's a change slash twist that was made primarily for the sake of the plot of this movie specifically to like make it work and sort of set up the new DCU. Um as well as just to like sort of emphasize the fact that like you've got Superman with this message from his parents and he's a good guy because what he had of the message he interpreted in such a way that like he's just a good guy, a better guy because of the way like it feeds into what you have of this thing, the way you interpreted it shows who your true character is. And like these people tried to use what you didn't have of it against you and succeeded for a while. But then like the rest of the world sort of realized that like he really did only get the first half of it. So it's still in my head is like the original sort of backstory of Superman in that like he was sent on a mission to do good in the world. It just so happened that the second chunk, that's the plot twist, like he didn't have, so he didn't do it. It was just used as a way to make him look bad in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it later comes out that, Lex had broken into his private personal property and like discovered what the second part of the message was and tried to blackmail him with it or whatever. Um so it's like, yeah, it looks bad, but at the same time it's like, okay, it still feels a lot like the original sort of source almost, because that is like how Superman grew up with it. So
Yeah.
it felt like a fun addition for the sake of the plot and like creating some kind of tension, um,
Mm-hmm.
while still also not having a negative long term effect on who Superman is as a character, um, going forward.
Yeah. I really liked this twist. I mean, this is something that, like, obviously I knew something was going to be up with the second half of the message because otherwise it would have worked.
Yeah.
But I really liked with this that like this twist is not like Lex is looking for a way of like making Superman look bad, and like he doesn't have to fake it. He just like finds something to like turn the public against Superman, and like Lex doesn't have a long-term goal here, like in the sense
No.
of like his goal is to get this country and like get it given to him, and he doesn't necessarily like he's not trying to stop Superman permanently, although it would be nice. He is trying to stop Superman for the moment so he can execute this plan. And so I liked this, that like, yeah, like long term people were going to come back around on Superman. He was going to prove himself, like, and this is another thing that I like about, like, he's already been Superman for 3 years. Like, people are already familiar and have that, like, seen what he stands for, at least publicly what he stands for. And so I really liked this idea of like him being out here, and like eventually would have overcome this. But I like that this also adds to the like he's not Kal-El, he's Clark Kent.
Yeah.
And like it gives us that great moment that you were referencing earlier with his dad, and his parents as a whole, but like his dad in specific, of like it's not the like it's the parents' jobs are to like give them tools, and then it's up to the kids of how they use them. And so I liked that twist a lot. And I feel like I'm curious to what this is going to mean for future projects. We keep teasing talking about stuff, but obviously with Supergirl being the next film, I think that there's going to be some interesting stuff there. And then the other twist that we have, which is indeed something, is the twist that Ultraman is a clone of Superman and is just dumb and is like being fed moves and stuff like that. What did you think of this? Did you see Ultraman being a clone coming? What were your vibes?
I did not. I knew there was going to be something, because we saw that Lex was able to get into Superman's man cave, for lack of a better word. Like there was going to be something, like some reveal at some point of how he managed to get into Superman's place.
Yeah.
Because how else, like, Superman's just not gonna let anyone walk into that. At the same time, literally the scene of that reveal, the way his face was lit and just like so in the moment, I thought that they had gotten Henry Cavill to briefly reprise his role of Superman and have it be like a weird interdimensional thing. So I was like, wait, what is Henry Cavill doing here as Superman? Like, he's off doing other things. And then they shifted to like the front shot, and I was like, oh, it's still Superman, just not Henry Cavill. So like my brain was in the right track. I was just confused as to like which actor it was, because it was dirt and hair and things, and I was like, Henry Cavill, what are you doing here? Like, no, you had your time.
I think it would have been really fun if it would have been Hugh Jackman.
That would
of
have
like
been hilarious.
we got Henry Cavill's Wolverine. Like, let's get Hugh Jackman Superman.
Yep.
I think that would have been very funny.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, this was something that like I would not have known, except this was like the major theory that was going around ahead of time, because Ultraman in the comics is like an alternate universe evil Superman.
Which plays into my thinking that it was Henry Cavill.
Yeah,
like, that would
right.
make sense
Yeah.
logically.
And,
Because his Superman is very serious.
Yeah. And I do think it would have been interesting if they would have gotten Henry Cavill. I'm like torn on it because like I think it would have been a very fun nod, but at the same time, I'm kind of happy that like the DCU did not start with new Superman beating up old Superman.
Yeah. It's definitely better that they didn't do that.
Yeah. But I do think it would have been very fun. And so I think they could have done that with like Nicolas Cage or somebody that like didn't play like a big screen Superman.
Just a random A-lister who's like, hey, do you want to play Superman for a couple of scenes?
Yeah. I do think that. But like, I'll say with this, my biggest complaint is that this is the classic hero fights the character with the exact same abilities as them. Yeah. Like, there is an interesting twist here. And again, I think that this is cool because it highlights how intelligent Lex is. Of like, the way that they tell Ultraman what to do is the worst way to do this. Like, they're literally like shouting out commands. But like, the idea being that like Lex just has spent so much time studying Superman that even with this awful way of doing it, he is still ahead of Superman.
Yep.
And knows what to do. I think that was super cool and is a very fun way of like handling it. And then we do get the end of their fight where Ultraman gets tossed into a black hole. And Nate put this in chat of saying, I thought and still think he is going to be Bizarro. Like, that is the other main like theory that had gone around and like seems likely that shout out to Bizarro from the comic books. And so
is it again, my DC Comics knowledge is very surface level. Isn't Bizarro like the anti-Superman?
So
or like
again,
the flip side or whatever.
Yeah. So Nate in chat, if you want to correct me if what I'm saying is not off. My understanding is that Bizarro is another failed clone of Superman, who kind of has like obviously the powers, but is not. He's so Nate says he's a clone that only responds in opposite speak, and so so the idea is that like opposite, and so yes means no, no means yes. And and then he kind of has this like heart of gold, but like he is, I mean, going to the crypto analogy, he's kind of like just really badly trained. And so like, I feel like in the Justice League comic, he was very easy to trick. Like you could very easily like manipulate him into being a bad guy just because like he wants to be like Superman. And so like, and he has all this power, but doesn't really know what to do with it. And so I do think that there's a good chance that we see this come back, see this version come back as
he was created as a mirror image of Superman in the comics, and has often been portrayed as an antagonist to Superman, though on occasion he also takes on an anti-hero role. So he's cool. I can definitely see this guy turning into that.
Yeah. Because
black hole in a superhero movie.
Yeah.
That's not really a finite end. Yeah. Like,
it's also a black hole against someone that's basically indestructible. Like, and so and so. For the next thing, I want to read this quote. This was a post that James Gunn had made, and I kind of want to like read this, and I want to get your thoughts on what you think. But this was from, I'm reading from Threads. Gunn says, "I'm incredibly grateful for your enthusiasm and kind words over the past few days. We've had a lot of super in Superman over the years, and I'm happy to have made a movie that focuses on the man part of the equation. A kind person always looking out for those in need. that resonates so powerfully with so many people across the world is in itself a hopeful testament to the kindness and quality of human beings. Thank you. What do you think about this? Kind of having the goal of putting the man in Superman.
I think he did a good job of that. Um, I'm also thinking, I'm picturing the older, I don't know if they were movies or TV series, Superman, live action Superman, with
Mm-hmm.
the
Chris
guy
Reeve, that one.
who
Yep.
was in the accident, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And okay, I keep picturing that from like things that I've seen, clips I've seen from that of like that also made him very human. From I haven't seen all of them, but just from what I have, like that, like he felt very human in that. But I think in this case, like that was years ago. That was pretty old. Um, really, one of the biggest faults that superhero movies fall into these days is not making the heroes human
Mm-hmm.
enough. They really do, put the hero on the pedestal of this person is not a person. Um, Marvel did a decent job with Iron Man of like not falling into that trap just throughout his story. But I think this, with Superman, as especially starting this new venture for DCU, he really did succeed at that goal of like starting both the DCU and presenting Superman as a person, to the best of his ability, and especially with the scenario of Superman being who he is, of known alien, from another planet. Like, by nature of his backstory, he's not biologically a human, but by just nature of his upbringing, he is as in touch with the human experience as every other human being on the planet. And I do think they did a good job of emphasizing that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I was talking to a friend of mine, and one of the things that we had shared with each other is the idea that like this fills Marvel in a lot of good ways.
yeah.
Of again, I keep coming back to the example of like Superman doesn't just punch his way out of every problem. Like,
Nah.
and I liked that a lot. I think that that's a cool way of taking the character and building like the world as a whole too, of like where characters are interesting first and super second.
Yeah.
I think that that's a really cool way, and
He has this mixed
and
relationship with this dog that he's fostering
yeah,
for his cousin, and like, you know, is
yeah,
going to save a squirrel, which is like he
yeah,
doesn't have to do that, but he's going to because it's a squirrel.
yeah. And with that, that transitions us to our next thing. We get the reveal of Millie as Supergirl as she pops in for a very quick scene to go and get crypto and then head back out into space. And so, what did you think about this tease? And then we obviously do know that Supergirl is getting her own movie next in the DCU. Do you have any hopes for that one?
I mean, the tease at the end was fun. And it was a great nod to like both the like, because it was a nod to the, oh, they're the last two people from their home planet and their cousins. Like, they're not just connected by, oh, we're the last two people from our home planet, but also we're connected by the fact that we are related to each other,
Mm-hmm.
which is fun. Um, and it's just like a unique little like Superman has somebody, has it like a blood relative that he can like do things for as a favor,
Mm-hmm.
in his own little human way, which is great. Because it, it makes him feel a little more human, as we were just talking about, because he has a family member to
Yeah.
do those kinds of favors for, which is great. Um, my only experience or touch point with Supergirl as a character in general is the TV show that existed. I watched
Mm-hmm.
the first couple episodes of it when it first came out and was just like meh. My biggest gripe is that they color Supergirl um and they use girl instead of like
Mm-hmm.
you've got
Woman.
Superman but not Superwoman.
Yeah.
Like that's my biggest gripe, but like you can't change that now. Um but it's also fun to see you've got Superman in this context of like saving people and things and like doing very honorable stuff. And then you've got Supergirl who is out celebrating her 21st birthday on
Mm-hmm.
a planet with a red star where that's the only place that the Kryptons can get drunk because of
Mm-hmm.
how their metabolism works. So it's a very
Yeah.
different energy from who Superman is. And
Yeah.
it's just fun to see those two sides of the coin of just like yes, hi, I'm Goofy saving people, and then I'm coming back for my 21st birthday.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I was super hyped for this. I had assumed that we were gonna get some sort of reference to Supergirl. But obviously the general assumption was that it was gonna be a post-credit scene. But like, I
Yeah.
like actually having this be a little bit of a moment in the film itself. Obviously, it adds more depth to Crypto and why Crypto is the way that they are. And then like, it's very fun. I also love that we got to see her in the outfit. I just think that like that makes me like question so many things in a good way
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
like you're just like out in the Superman outfit or Supergirl outfit, like like I'm very curious about that. And then we know from like the history of the character that that Kara like sees the destruction of Krypton, and like this gets into like
Yeah.
my one of my favorite parts. And I'm curious to how they're going to adapt this for DCU. But the idea that like she's actually like Clark's older cousin, but then gets trapped in timey-wimey shenanigans.
Yep.
And so when she comes to Earth, like she's supposed to have been protecting Clark, but Clark is
But she's
already
now
Superman.
younger
Yeah.
than he is.
And
So,
so I'm super curious. This is adapting Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, which I'm very excited to go and read. This is that's what I had referenced earlier. They've posted pictures of Millie reading that or like posing with it, and so I'm really excited to go and see that. Apparently, that comic deals a lot with a group of like other Kryptonians that actually survived on like a chunk of the planet, and then that then leads to her witnessing her people being killed again as like a meteor shower
oof.
destroys that part of the planet too. And so I'm really curious to like what we're going to see here, and kind of going to one of the topics from earlier. Like I'm really interested in us getting this like jaded, like has trauma like version of this character that like is very much dealing with the like I've witnessed my family die, and like
The trauma.
yeah, and I'm excited that we're going to get more Crypto in that film too, of like
Yeah.
this is going to be Crypto, and like I'm excited for us to, because I assume we're going to get some sort of Crypto training montage at some point in this film,
Crypto
as like
is best boy. Crypto
yeah,
is favorite boy.
like Kara's going
I
to get
love
her stuff
Crypto.
together and is going to also end up training Crypto, and it's going to be great. And so
Truly. And side note, fun fact I learned on the internet the other day through an interview is that Crypto is based on James Gunn's actual dog. They brought him into the studio and like did mocap stuff with him and just changed his color to an all white dog. So even like the side floppy ear James actual dog has. So it's just he just put his dog into a movie and that's super sweet.
yeah, I love that, and such a cool thing. And he was saying, I think that they adopted that dog or rescued that dog right before he started writing this movie,
Yeah.
and so it's such a fun thing to like bring in like that bit of real life into this film. And then last thing before we wrap, I want to get your thoughts on the future of the DCU now that we are started. I mean, of course, we've had Creature Commandos. Peacemaker is dubious in the sense of like it is canon mostly, but don't think about it too hard. But now that we've started the film versions with Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters, we had Superman that just released. Next year, we have Supergirl in June, and then we have Clayface in September. And then our 3 remaining films for Chapter 1 are The Authority, The Brave and the Bold, and Swamp Thing. What are you thinking about these upcoming things? Any hopes, vibes, again, as our not huge DC people?
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely like, I've said this a couple of times on repeat, but like I had no plans to go see this in the theaters. I was just gonna wait for it to come out on streaming. Ended up going with friends and was pleasantly surprised. So I definitely like because of that am like I'm in that stage of like I'm gonna keep an eye on this, and like if it keeps going in this trend of like, hey, that actually like pleasantly surprised me of how much I enjoyed that and like how fun it was, like I would probably get more into it. But at the same time, I'm still like I like my Marvel to an extent. Like I still the energy I got from this is very different from the energy that I got when I watched Thor on the airplane in like right after it came out, coming back from Spain in high school. Of like it blew my mind at the time of like, what? This is so cool. So it's like definitely a different experience, but also at the same time, I'm like, I'm gonna keep an eye on it because if they keep doing things like this that are fun and exciting and like different energy than the dark, broody Batman and Superman that they had been doing for a while. And if they're taking a note from how the MCU is doing stuff, then like I could see myself getting more into it. But it all kind of I don't have any major hopes, dreams, desires, well wishes, maybe well wishes. Good energy, do well. Beyond just like I have no stakes in this, but if it's a good time, I'll probably like make an effort to go see stuff in the theaters. If they keep coming out with things like this. So,
Yeah. I don't have a lot of like specific thoughts other than like I love how weird this list is. Like,
yeah.
I love that we're getting Nate referenced it in chat of Clayface, which is actually like supposed to, like potentially going to be scary, and like I know we talked about this in our Doctor Strange Spoilercast. Like it was not multiversey or madnessy enough. It was just both of them poorly, and so like get like
Yeah.
like the movie that is a scary superhero movie where like superhero is not the genre, it's the medium. I'm really interested in that. Like, do I do scary? Definitely not. But like,
Yeah.
I'm interested in what this could be. And Clayface is an interesting character from Batman the Animated Series. And then similarly, The Authority, The Brave and the Bold, and Swamp Thing are all just kind of weird choices to me.
Well, yeah.
Brave and the Bold
now
is
that
supposed to focus on one of the Robins, Damian Wayne.
Okay.
So like I'm really interested in that because like again we don't have a Batman in this universe that we've seen. That they've confirmed that it isn't Robert Pattinson, and that those movies are going to be a different thing. But I'm really interested then in like what this is going to mean for these characters and how weird things are going to be. That's what I like. Like again, kind of shouting out James Gunn, like that was part of what made the first Guardians movie so interesting. It's like these are just like random characters that no one really like in the general public knew about. Obviously, comic fans did, But
I
like,
was gonna say I don't know very much, if anything, about most of these. Like I've heard
mhm,
of Swamp Thing. I've heard of Robin and know that he's connected to Batman. Um, and that's about it. Supergirl, I know, is connected to Superman. Like I know generic, like triangular,
mhm,
like this person I can easily assume is connected to that person or whatever. But like with the, forever my touch point, Marvel, most of the characters they started with, Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, were all Marvel characters that I was like, yeah, I have a solid understanding of who that superhero is. So it's fun to see them starting with lesser, not lesser known DC
mhm.
characters, but like ones that don't get as much
Yeah,
spotlight.
weirder. Like
Yeah,
even getting like Supergirl, that is like obviously a very popular character, but having Supergirl be the second film in this, I think, is very interesting. And like,
yeah.
um, again, kind of like going to the thing for the MCU that so many people touted as the best part of, it's like, well, you didn't have your big characters. How do you make these other characters relevant to the mass market audience? And like obviously Superman is a huge deal, and is like basically the first and most important like hero in pop culture. But like, I think that that's so interesting. Of like, oh, you're just doing weird stuff, and I'm in for it. Like that's the vibes that I want.
These are all men. Oh, there's a woman. Sorry, this is something that I take note of because it's my
Mhm.
industry. Okay. Anyway, continue. It's mostly men on this list who are working on these. Um,
Oh yeah. And I do say we do not currently know the director or anything about the Authority, and so, but yeah, hopefully we will be getting more like female led. We do have a female screenwriter for Supergirl, but
Come on,
hopefully
let's
we'll
get
be
a
getting,
female director in here.
yeah,
James Gunn. I love you,
um,
but let's get some more women in here.
yes, very much agree. Um, I think with that,
I'm pro women.
put that on the
And
stamp. Emma, pro woman.
I better be. I am one.
Um, People watching over on YouTube with the VOD, let us know what you thought about Superman. What are your thoughts? What are your hopes for future of DCU? All of those kinds of things. And then, yeah, we will be back next week with a normal episode. And then I do also want to shout out on July 28th, we will be reading The Freedom Writers Diary by the Freedom Writers and Aaron Gruwell. That'll be our book club for July as we do banned book summer. And so hope everybody can come and hang out with us for those things. I will be starting mine #soon. And so I have not started the book yet, but
Mine has not arrived in the mail yet.
yeah.
But
With all of
it
that
should.
said, let's head into I'll be a quick post-show chat after we hit our outro. Remember, you can find us around the internet as OneGeek411. Check out that Discord server. Shoot us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. Watch live on Twitch and YouTube. Check out those VODs over on YouTube. And then you can also check out that Redbubble store. And then if you want to find us, you can find us at our personal social media, minus Humar Whittle.
Mine is I am not prepared with an I in the prepared.
And it's been a great week.
Do something good.
Higher, further, faster. Wait, what?